Today, I'm here with Coleen Elridge, also known as Coach Coleen, the owner of Be More Consulting. With over 15 years of HR experience, she's trained thousands in workplace culture and open communication. Coleen's a sought-after speaker and moderator at numerous events, conferences, and retreats throughout the entire country, and one of the speakers at MindBody's 2017 Bold Conference. Today, we're going to be talking about why millennials are actually great to hire, the do's and don'ts when interviewing new potential employees, and how to develop leaders within your company. Growing a small business isn't easy, and to be successful, we know three things for sure. You have to work hard, you have to be bold, and you must constantly learn. We're gathering some of the best minds in the business world to share their ideas and strategies with you so you can grow your business easier, be more profitable, and have a lot more fun being a business owner. We're on a mission to connect the world of wellness, and this is the Mind Body Bold Show. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Garcia, and welcome back to another episode of The Bold Show. Coleen, are you ready to get bold?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, first question I have for you, because the millennial thing is definitely something that a lot of people have a hard time with, right?
Yeah.
So when much of the world has a hard time either hiring or working or managing millennials, you actually say they can be extremely valuable employees.
Absolutely. So generational differences is one of my favorite topics to talk about because in the next 3 years, millennials will make up 50% of the workforce, right?
Okay.
Let that sink in for just a second, 50%. So what I always tell companies is don't bury your head in the sand about it. Millennials add a lot of value to the workforce. Number one, they're incredibly optimistic, and number two, they're incredibly hard workers.
Okay.
So it may not seem like it on the surface because we have this perception of millennials being the people that don't want to come to work and want to wear blue jeans and want to be casual all the time. But really, if you tie them to a mission, millennials will come through in a pinch. So they are really, really great to work with. They're also the most diverse and inclusive workforce. So they are really going to be shifting the workplace culture towards inclusion and diversity.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And you know, the great thing about it too is that they've been learning for the last like 10, 15 years, solid, new concepts.
The most educated workforce that we will ever have, millennials will be.
Awesome. Okay, next question I have for you is actually in the interview process. So a lot of small businesses weren't formally trained on how to host proper interviews.
Yeah.
And there's actually questions that you can ask that can get you into trouble. And there's questions that you can ask that can help you make better decisions. So what are some questions that you can and cannot ask when conducting a really great interview?
Okay, so I think it's pretty obvious that you should never ask like a woman if she's pregnant, you know, or if she's planning to have kids, and you would be surprised how sometimes that comes up in conversations. And it will come up in ways like, so tell me about your family life, right? So that is a trigger for lots of people, so just be cognizant of that. Anything that someone could then say, the reason I didn't get this job is because of X, Y, and Z, which might be a protected class. I always tell organizations to look at things like behavioral or situational interview questions. So tell me about a time that you experienced conflict and how did you overcome that? Okay. So if you can see how someone thinks about a process, that's really helpful in the hiring decision.
What about questions that could insinuate age?
Oh yeah, so age, the protected class for age is 40 and over. So anything that you could ask that's like, so what year did you graduate from college? Or tell me about how you used to do things at such and such, that might imply age, or that you're looking at something like how long they've worked for a company. Okay. You just have to be mindful about that. What
about questions regarding like ethnicity or anything like that?
So for the most part, people are pretty clear. Today, I don't really see much in that. You don't want to ask someone, well, where's your family from? No, really, where are they from, right? Or where are you from? No, really, where are you from? So just I always say, just don't be like a weird person, you know, like it's that easy. Just don't ask questions that you wouldn't really want to be asked either. And there's lots of great information out there about acceptable questions to ask during the interview process.
So now for strategic purposes, you've not only been able to interview people, but you've also helped train and coach people on interviewing people the right way.
Yeah.
When it comes to like the best questions to ask, to really be able to judge a character of somebody's, or even their work ethic or anything like that, what are some questions you were like, I'm always going to ask that?
Yeah. So one of my favorite interview experiences, I asked someone, tell me about a time that you had conflict and how you resolved it. And he went on this story about how he hit this woman with a clipboard. And the second he started talking about it, I just set my pen down because it's like, obviously you don't handle conflict very well. So how do you handle conflict? Because it's inevitable for any workplace. Right. So I want to see, one, what was the situation? What actions did you take? And what outcomes did you get from it? Okay. I want them to show me that they think through an entire process.
That's really great. Okay, cool. Now, there's the other side of it. Hiring's fun, right?
Yeah.
But then there's also firing, which sometimes that does have to happen if if the employee's not meeting the expectations or constantly breaking the rules or for whatever reason, right? But a lot of people let people go incorrectly as well. And there's ways that you can hurt the company, hurt your business and your other employees that you wanting to keep if you don't do that correctly. So what are some ways you can mess up in the firing process, and how should you conduct it to make sure that you're protected?
Yeah, so firing fast and firing slow, sometimes there's a reason for each one of those. So if something has happened and you can justifiably say, this person has to go today, absolutely do that. So if there was some type of sexual harassment or any type of harassment that you can say for sure that happened because you witnessed it, then yes. But in other times, you want to make sure that if you're firing someone, that you have the right documentation to say, this is why we're firing them, because anyone could sue you and say, well, I think I got fired because of my age, or I got fired because of my race, or because I'm a woman. Well, okay, no, it's actually, we have all of this documentation to say, this is why we let you go.
And when you say documentation, give me an example of the type of documentation that like a court would want to see to be able to say, okay, you guys did it right, you did what you were supposed to do.
So they would want to see that you took progressive disciplinary actions. So did you give them a verbal warning? Did you give them a written warning? Did you provide them with any type of thing to let them know that this could potentially be coming? Was there any type of written documentation that said this is what our policy is, and that they were aware of the policy and understood the policies that were in place? So policies are so big, and so many companies, especially small businesses, are not proactive with their policies, but that really is a lifesaver for you.
If I wanted to learn more about HR and the do's and don'ts, right, because it's scaring me a little bit, where can I go? Like, where do I learn like what the rules really are and what they're not?
Yeah, lots of great resources. One, I could help you, but two, there are lots of great resources. The Society of Human Resources Management, otherwise known as SHRM, they have lots of documentation on their website that you could access, that you could just use for your own benefit as well.
Awesome. Okay, so you've also been recognized for really knowing how to develop a great culture.
Yeah.
And that's really important because when you have a great culture, not only are you able to keep great employees and keep them happy and working hard, but you're also able to attract other A players as well. So talk to me about what are the few main points? Like, these are principles. You got to follow these if you really want to have a great culture.
Yeah. So for me, it's all about creating an inclusive workforce. So I describe inclusion as this: a state of feeling valued, respected, and supported. So imagine coming to work every day and every single person within that organization feels a sense of value, respect, and support just because they're a member of that organization.
Right.
So I always encourage leaders to ask themselves these questions. How am I valuing my employees? How am I respecting my employees? How am I making them feel a part of this culture just because they're a member of this organization?
Awesome. And what about, obviously there's praise. Some people like public praise, some people don't. Have you ever worked with like personality assessments, DISC assessments, anything like that?
Yeah, so I'm big on personality assessments. Okay. One, I think they're helpful. They're really helpful to get to know yourself and to get to know the other people on your teams. But I don't think that it stops there. And so sometimes I see organizations say, well, we did the Myers-Briggs and so we're good to go, right?
Right.
But you got to dig a little deeper and really get to know your employees to see, well, what is it that they like? Because if I'm going to publicly praise you and it's going to terrify you, I'm not going to get the benefits of that praise and recognition, and you're not going to actually benefit from the recognition either. So learning your employees and what their likes and dislikes are is really a valuable skill set.
Is there a favorite book or influencer or somebody to follow or read that you were like, man, this is great. If people can read this book, their life would be so much easier to develop culture?
Yeah, Simon Sinek, I think he is
Starts with why?
Yeah, start with the why. He is phenomenal at what he does. And I think so many people forget that why in the day-to-day work that they do. So that would be one of my first recommendations.
Love it. Okay, great. And now you've gotten to work with some pretty high performers, right? Not just on the business owner level, but also even some high-performing employees. So have you caught a trend or pattern of like routines that they all seem to do or have?
The biggest one that I see with high performers is two things. One, they are incredibly intentional about what they do. So they don't just do busy work for the sake of doing busy work. Everything has a purpose. And they have such clarity about what it is that they want in life that they can visualize that and they can expound on it to anyone at any time. So clarity and visualization is really the thing that I see most performers excel at.
Okay, awesome. And education is something I notice, you know, that they do better than the people that are a little below and still catching up, like the freshmen versus the seniors. It seems like, you know, when I was first starting out and really working with a lot of business owners, I feel like that level didn't read a lot. They just worked harder, right? But when you get up to the top, you start noticing that the people at the top, they read more than anyone else, and they learn.
Constantly learning, and it's not necessarily a standardized education. It's they are constantly reading new information. That way, they're aware of the trends and they know new things, and new products, and new information. So they're constantly learning all the time.
Awesome. Now you have a great story.
Yeah.
You actually lost your father at a very young age, and you were raised by your single mother.
Yes.
And that's a tough situation to just grow up in. You know, you don't hear a lot of great success stories from that, but you are one of them, right? So how were you able, like, what was your driving force in order to go through such really hard times, push through, and get to where you're at today?
Yeah, so I have an amazing mother, and that's something that I don't take for granted. She really is like a rock star mom. But I really think she really valued education for us as well, for my brother and I. So I never underestimated the value of educating myself. But the other big thing was I vividly remember being really young and hearing statistics about what my life should be like. And I remember consciously saying, he's talking about me, but that's not me. And so what could I do to not end up in that situation? And that was a driving force for a very long time. You know, it was like I wanted to be a really good student because statistically I should not have been. I wanted to go to school and get a master's degree because statistically that should not be the case. And so I really was driven by these external factors. And then all of a sudden it clicked with me that it was like, you know what, Coleen, you're doing this because you deserve this. You don't have to prove Dan Quell wrong, right? You're doing it because you deserve to have a great life, regardless of the circumstances that you were born into or that happened to you. You are not your circumstance. And so that's something that I'm really passionate about. In fact, my logo has a bee in it because technically bees are not supposed to be able to fly because of the weight of their body, but they do, right? So exceeding the expectation. That's what I want to do.
I did not know that. That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to use that. Is that okay? I'll give you credit.
Totally do. Yeah.
All right. So last thing I want to ask you, because you know when you're working with such high performers and when you're really helping coach people through culture and developing great cultures, you can't help but have to develop great leaders as well and really watch somebody go from maybe a poor leader or a mediocre leader to somebody that really takes ownership of that role. What are some things that if, let's say, somebody watching or listening today goes, I want to be a better leader. I don't know what that means yet, but I want to be a better leader. Let's tell them what that means. What are some of the principles that they have to follow?
I would say one of the biggest ones is to work on your communication skills because you cannot lead if you cannot effectively communicate. The second thing is work on your people skills. So beyond communication, work on how you can read a person. Can you read their nonverbal communication language as well? Because so many leaders fail in that area. And just be transparent and honest with people. My belief is if information can be shared, it should be shared. And so many leaders hold on to information as like a source of power.
It feels like it makes them vulnerable.
Absolutely. Versus if you share this information and you say, look, this is where we're at today. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but I'm going to be honest and open with you. Your employees are going to respect that a lot more, and you're going to get loyalty and retention and engagement because they're loyal to you, period. And so many people take that for granted.
I got to see Marcus Lemonis speak, and he talked a lot about being vulnerable and showing vulnerability to actually be a better leader and create a better culture.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Well, you've got a lot going on.
Yeah.
So where can people find you to learn more about you and what you teach so that people can learn from you?
Yeah. So really easy. You can go to my website. It's coachcoleen.com.
Okay.
Or Be More Transform, whichever's easier for you to remember. It all takes you to the same site. Or you can follow me on Instagram. I love posting on Instagram, and I send out a Monday morning pep talk every Monday to all of my subscribers that just gives you a little inspiration and something to focus on for the week.
There's nobody here that doesn't need a pep talk on a Monday.
Yeah.
On a Monday. All right. Well, Coleen, thank you so much for joining us. And guys, this was another great episode here of the Mind, Body, Bold Show, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you like this episode, then subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher, and to our YouTube channel to never miss an episode. You can get all the links by going to boldshow.com. Thanks, and see you next time.